We're just going to let it breathe for a second. Make sure we get everybody in here. And we're good to go.
Still spinning 1 and 2. There we go.
All right, there we go. All right. Welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers, your podcast for your latest and greatest about your Denver Broncos. Here with me today is Mr. Dylan Von Arx from the Orange and Blue View on our Saturday show. How you doing, Dylan? How are you excited about this game this weekend?
I'm super excited and anxious, as I'm sure a bunch of Broncos country is. A very consequential game. Winning you get in for the playoffs, and hopefully the Broncos can just get that over with. We won't have to worry about next week. We can just get her done tomorrow, and we'll be in the playoffs for the first time since 2015.
You know what the crazy thing is? When we played the Bengals 2015. That was to get in. We had DeMarcus Ware, we had Von Miller, all this. Our last Super Bowl year. That was actually the day my daughter was born.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I worked at the Broncos Stadium, and it was the one day I missed ever working there.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
It is crazy.
Maybe we'll have some good luck then, huh? Because I did see there was a tweet put out. I believe it was NFL put it out, but the weird circumstances of this game is it was on the 28th of December when we clinched last time after a 34-27 loss, and it so happens that this game will be on the 28th this time as well in December, and we are coming off a 34-27 loss. So maybe history can repeat itself, right?
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, that was a good game too. I think we had turned it over right before the actual turnover happened, because they said it wasn't turnover or something like that, and then we turned them over on a strip sack. I think DeMarcus Ware on AJ McCarron.
Just to that was that botched snap that flew by him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we know how that feels. The Broncos, that was terrible.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So before we start our show, we're just gonna say what's up to everybody in the chat room. So we got Mr. David Youngkins in here. I hope everything's going well with you. Says evening, everybody. We'll be back in the hospital. Oh, damn. Well, hopefully that's just like something precautionary to make sure that everything's good to go. But if not, like, we wish you the best. I know I'm not a fan of the hospitals. I was in them all the time as a kid, breaking bones. But I don't know. Those guys are really good at what they do. So hopefully you're in and out, David. Sorry about that.
Yep. Sorry to hear that, David.
And then Max says the same thing. I hope everything is okay, David. Thoughts and prayers with you and your family. And string guys in here. Is that Wolfie Merlot? Is that how you say it?
I believe so. Wolfie Merlot. And if you want to drop the pronunciation in the chat for us, we're see a lot of names come through here, and we don't want to botch anyone, of course.
Well, it's awesome to have everybody in here. So we're going to start off with a little quick episode breakdown. As everybody knows, the Chiefs did do their part, and they won. They clinched the number 1 seed. So does that make it a trap game for us on this one? I mean, it's not a trap game because we're not supposed to it's supposed to be a competitive game. But are we going to just we'll just wait until next week? We can always just fall back on next week. Hopefully that's not the case. And then just the actual Broncos-Bengals matchup, keys to the game, key matchups. Then we're going to do an injury report. Then give our predictions. And then, like I said last time, we're gonna check out some YouTube comments that they left in the comment section and answer them live on air. Most of them were mostly comments or statements, not questions. So if you could just kind of steer towards the questions, I guess. But you could put whatever you want on there. It's just easier to answer the questions on show. And then news around the league. So to start off, we're going to go with the clinch, the Chiefs clinching the number 1 seed. What do you think about that, Dylan? How are your thoughts after they did that?
Well, unfortunately, it was inevitable, I think. Kind of a bummer. You never like to see a division opponent up there, but we gotten kind of used to that with the Chiefs. They've been so
Mhm.
dominant ever since Patrick Mahomes has entered the division. That tandem of him and Andy Reid is just they make magic. And Spagnuolo, he deserves a shout out. Those three guys make that thing turn. I thought the Steelers would put up a little more of a fight, but we saw the Russell Wilson that we got to see week to week in Denver. If you take
Yeah.
away the deep shot, he's either forcing a check down or taking a sack. So, yeah, it doesn't change a whole lot. Coming into the season, I kind of figured this would be the case, which sucks that it did happen. But what are you going to do? They get that bye. Playoffs run through Kansas City. Someone's going to have to go there and beat them. Hopefully it's us. Maybe it's us. So, good amount of luck. But, hey, this team's young and hungry, so we'll see what happens, man.
Yeah, definitely. And they're not just scraping by anymore, the Chiefs. So that's it's kind of it's kind of sad to see. I was hoping they were just gonna ride it, just barely make it to the play, or not barely make the playoffs, but barely win each game like they have been doing all season long so far. And then, so I don't know if it's a trap game, but I know that we've had issues with their backup quarterbacks in the past. In the end of the season, Patrick Mahomes was the first one I remember because nobody knew who he was, and he ended up beating us. That's when Von Miller got introduced to him. And their backup isn't just some scrub. He's not. I don't know. I want to say trash about Ben DiNucci, but he's not Ben DiNucci. Like he's Carson Wentz. Yeah, at one point he was a front runner for the MVP before he tore his ACL late in the season. His career has definitely taken a nosedive since then, but he's capable of throwing a 350-yard game in there, mixing there. So you just can't take this guy lightly. You can't depend on us falling back onto the that we're just going to beat the backups, I guess.
Yeah, and you can't also count out with that bye week the Chiefs get. Hey, maybe they do want to screw the Broncos. Maybe they don't want us to get in the. I mean, not even maybe. They definitely don't want us to get into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them playing their starters because also there's a thing of rust. Obviously, I know the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They always play good, blah, blah, blah. But you don't want to have that rust. And I think they will. There is a possibility that they still play starters in this last week, just despite their division rival. And that's something the Broncos, whether it's their starters, whether they're backup, they're going to have to play it like it's a playoff game because it basically is. I mean, especially if you don't win tomorrow.
Definitely. It's yeah, I could see. I remember they did something like that on us where they did that jump pass when they were already up and they were going to win the game with Dontari Poe. So Andy Reid is definitely not going to just take it lightly on us. But if you want to bet that he does, or you want to bet on anything in football today, the NFL, go down to Underdog Fantasy. Because Underdog Fantasy is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and over $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. Compete against other players by selecting higher or lower on just 2 or more players, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog.
With their champs game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Like, for example, will Bo Nix have higher or lower than 231.5 passing yards next week? Will Nix have higher or lower than 1.5 touchdowns? Every dog deserves a second chance, and with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose.
Download the Underdog app today and use the code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 and bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today and use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown, just select higher or lower on Underdog.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 43342. New York. Call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
Yeah, that was a hard one.
like a friggin' auctioneer.
I don't know if you're too old or too young for this one, but there's used to be this guy, the Micro Machine Man. He used to talk really fast. They were like these little like Hot Wheel cars.
Oh, I got you.
Anyway, so of course our matchup this Saturday is gonna be against the Bengals. Saturday the 28th. We're gonna talk about some keys to the game to start off with. Um, one of my keys to the game is the key that everybody is super happy that he's back, and that's Mr. Riley Moss. Him against maybe T. Higgins. I know Higgins is a little hampered at the time as well, but it's really nice to have Mr. Moss back. I saw him doing some footwork, some drills earlier today, and it was pretty impressive. It's some stuff that you had to really put a lot of pressure on your ankles and your legs. And I felt like he handled it pretty well. It didn't seem like he was hampered at all. So, what are your thoughts on Mr. Riley Moss coming back to the roster?
Well, apparently when he's not on the field, this defense completely falls apart. And that's obviously a terrible thing. You know, you can't just have one guy go down. As good as Riley Moss is, and have a destroy your entire defense, and that's a defensive coordinator problem. Vance Joseph, I'm looking at you. You know, he had us there for a long time, but then you kind of realize and look back at some of the wins. It's like, wow, we were doing really bad until we got a defensive touchdown or a pick or something. And it's like kind of similar to last year where the defense really wasn't that good, but they were getting these turnovers, which is such a volatile thing, right? You're not going to get so many turnovers or a defensive touchdown even every single game. So they got to pick something up. And Riley Moss is a big key to this defense. Obviously, Chris Abrams-Jane, he filled in admirably, did a pretty good job. But Vance Joseph didn't really trust him, it seemed. They were playing a lot of zone, and they were just getting picked apart by Justin Herbert there with the Chargers. And just not a good look. Now probably go back to a lot more man, which is great. That means we could send another blitzer because he trusts that, hey, I got my three cornerbacks, Jaquan, Surtain, Moss, and they're going to cover their guys long enough for an extra rusher to get home.
Definitely. And I thought, yeah, Chris Abrams-Jane played pretty well, and I felt like he kind of proved himself when he did have he had a really nice interception right at the goal line. And it's nice to have him in there because now you can kind of like ease Riley Moss back into the rotation opposed to just having him play just full out and needing him to play every single down. So it's really nice to see Chris Abrams-Jane play really well. He's this year's Jaquan, maybe. Just a surprise player I never heard of it. Now he's a staple on the defense. And then another thing, they all talk about Sean Payton getting upset about them zooming in on the play sheet where it says run the ball. But he went away from running the ball. They killed it in the first half. They didn't run it in the second half. This been Jeff Legwall from ESPN was talking about. This has been like multiple games where he's saying they don't run the ball enough, but he's the one that actually makes the play calls. So what do you think? What's the reason for him just not sticking with the run? I know that sometimes we do get stuffed on the run, but when we were playing well last time, I don't understand why he went away from it.
Well, nothing besides ego in my mind. and we knew we'd get some of that with Sean Payton. You know, he's a smart coach. He's a good play caller at times. Like you mentioned, the run game has been non-existent through certain parts of the game. Obviously, the second half of that Chargers game was abysmal. And you go back to, hey, man, this was working, especially that first drive. I believe they only threw, one pass maybe? The rest of the time, they ran the ball, and it was working. And when you get to the second half of a game where you can really use that running game and wear down the defense, Sean seemingly was like, you know what? I want to be right. Bo Nix was the guy that I picked. I think he's the best quarterback, and let's throw it 40 times a freaking game with a rookie quarterback. Like, first of all, your weapons, are not as great as some other teams.
Yeah.
Obviously, Cortland Sutton's been good this year. But everyone else is kind of inconsistent. Vele had a few drops, but he's mostly been reliable. But outside of that, you don't have tight end. You're still trotting out Javonte Williams as the lead back.
Yeah.
The only time he didn't get the lion's share of the carries was this Chargers game. The rest of the season, however, he's been getting all the cares, and it's like, what are we doing here? But that's just not a winning recipe. You can't have a rookie
Yeah.
quarterback throwing 40 times a game, especially when you're up. Like, what? Run the ball a
Yeah,
little
they
more.
were
Take some
they were
pressure
behind
off him.
by 11, and they
Mm-hmm.
still were just throwing the ball.
Definitely.
But we have Tyler Bidet coming back.
Actually,
He was a full participant and everything, but he's still considered questionable.
and I believe I just saw he's actually been downgraded to out.
Oh, has he? Oh, wow.
I believe so. Yeah, I'm seeing multiple people about around 4 hours ago. It says questionable, but now it seems that he will not be playing this week.
Man, I wish I was like a mediocre running back in the NFL. I feel like he could find a way to get onto this Denver team and play some serious minutes, like Latavius Murray that a couple years ago. Because they just have nobody who's holding it down. It's just whoever just happens to be whoever's playing better. I don't know. And then sometimes they just go away from completely. But and then the last key of the game is playing a full 60 minutes. I know that we were playing the back half of the games really well earlier in the season, and for some reason this game was complete opposite. We scored the first 3 drives. I think they said that we had never scored the first 2 drives yet, and not only did we do that, we scored a touchdown the first 3 drives, and then it kind of just went out of control there. They had the bad ending to the first half, but yeah, I don't know how they're going to do that. You just got to keep playing like you're down, I guess, the entire game with a mindset like that, because they tend to take their foot off the gas when they get up. At least they did in this last game.
Yeah.
Did you have any keys of the game that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. So one of mine is, and it's going to be hard to do this, but he is the only defensive player on the Bengals line. That's scary. And that'd be Trey Hendrickson, obviously leading the league in sacks right now, 13.5. He's a game wrecker, but he's really the only guy they got. I believe Sam Hubbard was downgraded to out, so that's rough for them. Their defense is the 4th highest paid, and they're just abysmal, absolutely terrible. The Broncos are going to have plenty of chances to run the ball, but also win through the air. I think Bo Nix can have a good game here. Obviously, Cam Taylor-Britt is a good player. He's going to have to watch out for him. But other than that, you got to focus on neutralizing Trey Hendrickson, whether he's on Bowles' side, whether he's on McGlinchey's side. You give him a chip, run the ball at him, anything, just to neutralize him, tire him out. And the Broncos shouldn't face too much pressure. I mean, they've only given up 22 sacks of Bo Nix this year, which is just amazing. I mean, Caleb Williams wishes. And, that sucks for him. But, yeah, I think neutralizing Trey Hendrickson's going to be priority number 1 for the Broncos offense.
Yeah, definitely. He's been killing it. He's been killing it for the past few years. He flies under the radar. He's been doing everything that TJ Watt has been pretty much doing. I think it was last year or the year before, he might have only had 8 sacks, but that's still an impressive season for a lot of people. He came from the Saints, I think. I think he had his last year there was like 13.5 sacks, and ever since then he's just been killing it for the Bengals. What an excellent pickup for them.
Definitely.
But right now they're kind of wasting his talent because they need a whole bunch of crazy stuff to happen for them to get into the playoffs. Exactly. And hopefully we put an end to that. And any other keys to the game for you, or just I was about to go into some matchups.
Yeah, actually, I do have one more that I want to talk about, and it's limit Jamar Chase. And I know Broncos fans are going to have this skewed view of, we're just going to put PS2 on him every snap, and everything's going to be magic and sunflowers and daisies. But the fact of the matter is, this is the NFL, and they're going to exploit matchups. They're going to get him off of PS2. Don't be surprised if you see Jamar working a lot out of the slot. They're going to try and work that matchup against Jaquan McMillan. Doesn't mean PS2 won't be on him a good amount, but in the NFL, offensive coordinators, head coaches, whoever's play calling, can figure out how to exploit defenses and get their matchups. It's like when you see freaking, we'll just say Jamar Chase, for example, it's like, why is a linebacker covering him? It's like, well, the offensive coordinator exploited a matchup and moved, whether using motion, shuffling a guy around, they're going to find a matchup. So slowing down Jamar Chase in any capacity is crucial to this game. Because obviously T. Higgins is a big threat as well, but Jamar Chase is the one who's going to take the top off of the defense. And, with how shaky PJ Locke has been, I am a bit worried. And obviously no linebacker, especially the Broncos, is going to follow him very well. So limiting Jamar Chase should be goal number one.
Definitely.
For the
that guy's
Broncos.
I remember looking up Justin Jefferson for some draft preparation, and every time there was a touchdown caught, I was like, "Is that him?" It was Chase. And I think Chase might have been a freshman, maybe a sophomore that year. It was like in the championship game, and he roasted like AJ Terrell, somebody who was a first round draft pick cornerback, and it was impressive. He's really, really, really good. He's always my first pick if I can get him in fantasy. We got Max coming in. Hey guys from Manitoulin Island, is that how you say it? Let's get a win. Let's go Broncos. How you doing, Max? Thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And thanks for watching us all the way from Manitoulin Island. What time is it there? I wonder if it's around the same time, or is that? Do you know where that island is, Dylan?
I have no idea, but thank you for coming in, Max. If you could just drop that in the chat for us, that's awesome. Though I
hope it's not one of those situations where it's like the funny names you're at and they just messing with you. Anyway, Mr. Eric Flynn threw some stars in there. I appreciate that, Mr. Eric. If you want to throw a question in at any time, just let us know, and or just drop it in there and we'll answer it for you. Then we got two more, I think it is. Oops. And then Michael Ronquillo, of course. Good evening, Kenneth and Dylan and the Dub Valley Deep Divers. Go Bo Broncos. Heck yeah, Michael. How you doing, man?
Always good to see you, Michael. Always starting us off right.
Definitely.
In the chat and closing us out too, as always. So always good to see you, Michael.
And then you got Mr. Phil McLaughlin. How you doing, Phil? Good evening, good evening, Kenneth and Dylan. Nice to hear that Bidet could be active and Moss is available. Now listen, so VJ sticks with man coverage. Hashtag Buckham, hashtag MHH for life, hashtag BFL. Yeah, hopefully he does. I hope, cause it seems like he gets kind of scared. Like he does, like you're saying, he doesn't trust a lot of the guys behind them. But Chris Abrams, I feel like it's a small sample size, of course. But I feel like he's definitely shown he's a definite upgrade from Levi Wallace, which I think they just cut him.
Mm-hmm.
Sad to see that this is that one game and he was just gone. But hey, it's with the NFL not for long. So sorry about that. Hopefully you land on your feet somewhere else and it's not against us in the playoffs, apparently.
Or maybe it will be, and we could exploit that for sure. Thank you for coming in, Phil, and like you mentioned here, Bidet. Not sure. It seems that he'll be out. That's what I'm seeing from multiple reports. So that's a bummer. But Riley Moss is the bigger ad there, and I think the Broncos are also comfortable. They promoted Blake Watson to the 53-man roster.
Oh, nice.
So that he looked good in the one or two touches he got. So Sean Payton, once again, hey, run the ball, write it on your play sheet, but actually read it. Don't face it outwards. Let's have it like on the front of your call sheet, right where you can read it and you won't get memed for it. Maybe keep that to yourself. Maybe for your eyes
the guy
only.
with the menu that's upside down.
Exactly.
It's like you just gave us all the answers, bro. Yeah, so we're talk about the first key matchup. Of course, is everybody's favorite key matchup of this game, and that's going to be PS2 versus Jamar Chase. He's going to try to follow him as much as he can. I know you can't all the time. I wish you could, but I heard them talking about each other earlier today, and they talked about Chase talks about how he's like, I've been playing PS2 for a minute, like because they did both play in the SEC. I think they only played 1 year, 2019. With Alabama and LSU. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of cool to see a little history go back on that. But what do you what do you see? Do you see when they are actually matched up against each other? How do you see that playing out there, Dylan?
Well, we know last time these two faced off, you had Jamar for one catch on 4 targets for 3 yards. So if we can get anywhere near that, that'd be fantastic. I'm not expecting that same performance. Obviously, there Jamar is, and I believe that was the rookie year, and Jamar is a lot more seasoned now. Obviously, his chemistry with Burrow is huge.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think PS2 can mitigate a lot of that damage. Can he completely lock him down? I say there's a good chance, but it's tough because you do still have to worry about T. Higgins, and there's, like you mentioned, and I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a lot of mismatches, and Zach Taylor is going to try and force those. So, as in terms of just PS2 and Jamar Chase, though, I think I'm going to have to give the edge to PS2 just on sample size alone.
Yeah, I could see Jamar Chase getting a couple like 7 and 8 yard passes here and there, maybe a first down or two. But I just don't see that big long play up the sidelines. I think PS2 is going to break it up, and then you'll get that. Like, get that out of here, man. So I think Chase definitely can have a huge game. It reminds me when I was a kid. I remember I went to an Eagles Broncos game, and it was Champ Bailey versus Terrell Owens. And besides this one play, Champ Bailey played him pretty well, but that one play was like an 85-yard touchdown. I think it was like a little hook passing route, and right as he turned upfield is right when Champ was going for the tackle, turned into an arm tackle attempt, and then Teal was gone for like 80 yards. So Chase is definitely capable of something like that. But more often than not, I think that PS2 keeps him in a safe range to where maybe he does make the catch, but he's not going to go anywhere after that.
And that's something we've seen PS2 obviously, but Riley Moss is a great open field tackler. Like, even if someone does get a catch off on him, they're going down right where they caught it, no further. And I like that mentality from these DBs. And hopefully PS2 can wrap him up for like I just mentioned, no further, no yak. We don't need any of that.
Yeah, so you got to do the gang tackling. I hate when people like somebody's got him wrapped up and the other guy just kind of stands there and watches, and then they break the tackle, and you're just like, "Are you serious, dude?"
Yeah, can't.
It's how easy it is to like lose your job in the NFL. I feel like that'll keep you your job by being the guy who just never gives up, at least on the practice squad. Another key matchup I had, I guess, was the other side of the field would be Mr. Riley Moss and T. Higgins. I know T. Higgins is dealing with some issues as well, injury issues. So it's not 100% sure that he will be playing. But that's a matchup that I want to see. Both of them crazy talented. Of course, Riley Moss is still early in his career, a little unproven. But T. Higgins is looking to make some money because was he in a contract year or? So I don't think he wants to be number 2 at all, even if it is with Jamar Chase and Burrow, which is crazy. Like, I don't know. To have Burrow thrown to you all the time, to have Jamar Chase on the other side, I feel like you would just be having fun when you played. So I don't understand why people want to run out to get that. I get why you want to go get the number 1 money, but I just don't agree with it.
Well, part of that as well is Jamar is in his contract year as well, I believe, or he's is it his 4th year? Either way, he's looking to get paid, and you can't pay. I mean, you can, but Cincinnati's a historically stingy franchise, so they're not. I don't think they're going to get. They're going to definitely get Jamar, or if they don't, they're idiots. But I think T. Higgins is gone, but he's going to ball out as best he can. He's got to show off for the other 31 NFL teams. But he's a big body receiver. He's good at the catch point. And, I think Riley Moss with his speed and his range, I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup. And that's one that's going to matter a ton because if Jamar's getting locked down, I mean, someone else has got to get open. But obviously our secondary, the corners especially, have been phenomenal this season. So, that'll be a dogfight for sure.
So this one I had next, isn't essentially they're not going to face off each other, with each other, but they are competing with each other for the sack title, and that would be Trey Hendrickson and Nick Benito. Both of them, I know Benito had a pretty quiet game last game, but from what Eric was saying, there was a lot of the holds weren't called against him.
Mhm.
So he's gonna look for a bounce back game. I know he's got to be pissed on how the last game turned out. He's looking to punish Joe Burrow. I know Joe Burrow too as well. Also is like super confident that's why I think PS2 is gonna get an interception in this game. I think he thinks he's better. Him and Chase are better than PS2, and he's gonna force one. But yeah, who do you think is more likely to get a sack or double digit sacks or 2 sacks, whatever?
Multiple, yeah.
In this game with Hendrickson and Bonito.
Just with how good the Broncos offensive line's been playing, and like I mentioned, Trey's really the only guy on that defensive line that's going to scare you. They can either chip him, run the ball at him, tire him out, and that's kind of what the Chargers did when they ran the ball. They ran it at Bonito, and it tired him out. So when they went to passing downs, Bonito was a little more gas, and then you have those gigantic tackles on either side for the Chargers there, who kind of mitigated his damage. But I'm going to have to give it to Nick Bonito. I think he's got that burst off the edge, as we know, very fast. I just don't really trust the Bengals tackles. Orlando Brown's he's solid, but he's been a little banged up. And then their rookie Amarius Mims also banged up, a rookie. So Bonito's going to have his chances, and I don't think 2 sacks or maybe even more is out of the question for tomorrow.
I want to go with Trey, just because what you were saying, like he's the only person, and he still keeps getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully I'm wrong, whatever, but I don't know. This guy, he's just like another little JJ Watt with less recognition, or TJ Watt, whatever. But he's that guy's good. So hopefully we can, Mr. Powers and Miners, Wanberg, all those guys can hold him off and give Bo just that much time, or just that lane to take off if he needs to. But yeah, that's going to be a tough one. And then my last matchup was the rain versus ball security. Sean Payton had talked about the game. Actually, let me try to ask one more question, whatever, in the super chat over here. I forgot about Michael Ronquilos. He came back in here with another one. My bad for that, folks. The Broncos are better with Riley Moss, only giving up 189 yards passing yards per game in the NFL and 289 yards per game without him. I know the points were different as well, too. It was like it went from like 18 points to 2 back-to-back 30-point games. So what do you – that's an insane like production difference when you have him on there and when you don't. It's almost like I don't know if you watch the Nuggets. It's like Jokic. It's like a 30-point swing, whatever. It's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about Michael's comment here?
First of all, yeah, thank you, Michael, for coming in, as always, coming back in and giving us some thought-provoking questions or even statements here. Like, yeah, the Broncos have been dreadful without Riley Moss, and you say, oh, it's because Chris Abrams-Drain or Damari Mathis haven't been playing good. It's like, no, they're playing good. The other teams are just exploiting the zone coverage that this team is much weaker in. They're much better at man, and that's, again, on play calling, on Vance Joseph, for not playing to his team's strengths. Those are the strengths, is man coverage. If you're too scared to play zone, if you're too scared to play your own defense, why are you coaching? So, like, if you're going to get burned, at least get burned doing, like, what playing to your team's strength, but it's like, okay, they just straight up beat us. But when you're sitting back there in zone and picking you apart, you're not even, like, trying to do what you're best at, and that's just not winning football. It makes me wonder if it makes me hope that Vance Joseph gets like a head coaching gig to get him out of here, because I really want Jim Leonard to be promoted to DC. I think he's very creative. With his time in college, he's very creative, especially when it comes to DBs and coaching them up. But that's something to talk about later. Obviously, Vance Joseph's still here, but yeah, it's just a lot of it is playing scared. And in December, the Broncos defense was coached and got plays called that was scared. They were
Yeah.
terrified, basically.
Yeah, that's what somebody was saying in the comments in the last week's episode on the bottom about them just being disappointed with both coaches, essentially. But yeah, Vance Joseph just when he doesn't have his perfect set of players, whatever, his defense it plays to like not to lose, not to win. Oh yeah, as I was talking about earlier, oops, that was the wrong one. As I was talking about earlier, the last matchup I had was the rain versus the ball security because Sean Payton had talked about how the rain is supposed to come on even more as the game goes on. We do have 2 running backs that have had issues with ball security in Estime and Blake Watson. Also, you don't want things to come down to a field goal at the end with a wet field and a wet ball. I know that were already preparing with I guess they dunk the balls in water or whatever to prep the balls to make sure that they're ready to go. Or they're used to them, I guess. But what do you think? Are you kind of worried about the rain? Do you think it's not going to rain?
Yeah, we're getting various reports. I'm seeing like, oh, the rain's letting up. Oh, it's back, or is it coming this time of the game, or at the start, or whatever. Regardless of when it comes in, if it does, I'm not going to be overly worried about it. I know Bonik struggled mightily in that Jets game with the rain, so hopefully that was just an anomaly and we don't see that again. But obviously, it's just going to be harder playing in the rain. Aaron Rodgers struggled a bit too. Obviously, he's a veteran. He knows, he's used to it. He played in freaking Green Bay most of his career.
Yeah.
But in terms of the running backs, I'm not too worried. But I do hope that this incentivizes Sean Payton to use his running game, utilize his running backs. He had a quote talking about, oh, you have 5 running backs on your roster. What do you do with them? He's like, oh, well, we're trying to figure out how to use them and where they fit in. It's like, you can't do that without running the ball, Sean. You kind of need to. That's how you figure out what these guys do. And we've seen Estime. He's been pretty good when he's gotten the opportunities, but that's when he's gotten them because they go away from the run game so often because Sean wants to, I don't know, prove that he can win throwing the ball. I don't know, something weird. It's something. And I saw a few comments on the side saying, oh, Sean, he'll learn from this stuff. He's a veteran coach.
Yeah,
these are things he should know.
Coaches
like that's
Parcells.
And that's exactly. That's why I'm harder on him. And some people might be, oh, you're being too rough with him. Oh, poor little Peyton. No, man, he's a veteran coach. You won a Super Bowl. Okay. Why are you still making these stupid mistakes? Wake up. You wrote it on your call sheet. I'm going to keep bringing it up because it got turned into a meme, bro. Like, come on.
It's like, at least I guess Fangio had a little bit of an excuse because he never was a head coach for making some of these bonehead ones, whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. I saw a couple people in here that I hadn't seen before. Nicholas Klinger. He feels like, how you doing, Nicholas? Thank you for joining us today. I don't know if you had been in here before, but welcome. Thank you. He feels like Mims is going to have a great game. Mims has been coming on as the season has progressed. I would love to see him have a big game, or I know he had that big return. It was kind of weird how he went out of bounds at the last second too. It looked like he could have made it into the end zone, but I don't know. But I guess when they showed it from different view, they had him by his jersey or his pants or tucked him out of bounds. I'm not sure, but yeah, that would be awesome to have him or Franklin have a really good game because both of them can take the top off the defense and they're pretty impressive. So what do you think about Mims?
I think there's going to be good opportunity for him in this game in particular, especially like we mentioned with the rain and whatnot. I could see the Broncos playing a style where it's run the ball and then you dink and dunk these short passes, get these quick out, and then that'll help mitigate Trey Hendrickson. And then you can hit him with a deep shot once you draw them in with Mims, or I don't even want to say Troy Franklin because I jinx him every week, but with Marvin Mims, we've seen him connect on deep shots with Mims. So it's like, okay, I have trust there. So I definitely think it's possible. Mims has that speed. We'll probably see him in the backfield again as well, just, get some extra juice behind that line. But I could definitely see him have a big game.
Definitely. Yeah, it's he's so exciting to watch. It's like you just want to see him get the ball in his hands, like um, especially since he's been relatively healthy his entire career. And like our previous guy we had like that was with Hamler. Um, we got Phil coming back in here with another some more stars. Appreciate that, Phil. Thank you so much. He talks about if the defense gives up 20 plus points in the last two games, does VJ get fired? Um, I guess it all comes down to if they win the game and then how how they finish the games. Maybe if they collapse on some bad calls. I know there what was it? I remember a couple years ago where the Jets missed the playoffs or the Raiders. I can't remember what it. Anyway, it was because they ran a zero defense on a Hail Mary situation where the person they needed a touchdown and they blitzed everybody. And it was a while because it was Henry Ruggs. Wow. And Henry Ruggs caught that touchdown. He's got to pull something like that. I feel like to be in the hot seat. I think he more likely leaves like how Dylan was talking about. Somebody tries to poach him from us. But what do you think, Dylan?
Shoot,
I
I
bet you
mean,
your idea.
no, not even that. I'm just like, I don't know that he gets fired if it's 20 plus points. Like you mentioned, I think it's the outcome of the game. Uh, oh, yeah, that's tough. I don't know if I see him getting fired. I think they would have to lose both games, especially imagine the Chiefs are sitting there starters on defense and you give up 20 plus, then I'd be like, okay, I know it's Andy Reid, but Carson Wentz he's not the worst quarterback in the world, but he's definitely not Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Like, and if you have your starters
Especially if
out
you
there,
lose.
which they should, because you want to stay warm for if you do make the playoffs.
Especially if you lose this game and then he loses to backups.
Yeah.
I think that'll be some serious, at least in Denver, maybe not around the league. I feel like that on the league, they'll think we'll treat him unfairly because of how he's done all season, but that can definitely get you fired losing into a backup team when you missed the playoffs for 9 years and all that was on the line and you still blew it. So, yeah, it's going to be hard to get rid of VJ. I don't know. He's played his cards well. When he does have a healthy team, they tend to perform really well. They play aggressive. They're a fun team to watch on defense. But yeah, if they're missing one of their stars on the cornerback, it can get very frustrating very fast because it seems like the same mistake gets made over and over and over, as in the Judy situation, where it's just like, oh my god, I know you can't do man to man, but like somebody's got to help Wallace out. You should have filed charges against the Broncos for defamation of character to our player. And then after that, we're gonna go with the. Oh, actually, I had another one in here from somebody new. Where's this? Jerron Washington. How you doing, Jerron? Pleasure to have you in the chat today. Rocking that beard. I can't have no beard no more. You guys have beards. I'm jealous of y'all. He thinks Bo Nix is going to have a great game. The Bengals defense is 29th in the NFL. They gave up big plays and a lot of points. I hope they keep that trend going. I know that was one of the big things they were talking about online. A lot of the talking heads that their defense was struggling and we need to like really lean into the run on them because of that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I guess I can't say a prediction now because you have your show tomorrow.
Actually, Chad and Zach will be doing the reaction show. And just a quick note for you guys, we'll be swapping. So on Sunday, me and Ron will be live, Orange and Blue View, so we get to do the aftermath show, as it were.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't even have that predictions. Do you want to go? Actually, we'll go to the injury report right now.
Yeah, let's do that.
Do you have the injury report up by chance?
Yes, I do. So, as I'm looking at the injury report now, obviously there's one amendment to this. Tyler Bidet has been ruled out, which is a bummer. But like I mentioned, Blake Watson was promoted to the 53-man roster, so they do get a boost there. Other than that, everyone who was questionable, is a full go. We have Riley Moss playing. Awesome. Jaleel McLaughlin is a full go as well, and as is Troy Franklin, who we heard was in a walking boot after the game last week, so that's good to hear. On the Bengals side of things, full go, Joe Burrow, Jordan Battle, Orlando Brown Jr. Questionable, we have tackle Amarius Mims, T. Higgins, who with a knee/ankle, so that's something that could bother him throughout the game. We got 2 players on illness. Let's stick to the bigger names here. And as for out, I mentioned towards the top of the show, Sam Hubbard, defensive end, and Sheldon Rankins with an illness. 2 more defensive linemen for an already putridly weak defensive line. So that is the roundup of the injuries.
Okay, that's good that we're relatively healthy. Heading into the final stretch of the season. Yeah, it's gonna be a crazy game. So do you have your predictions by chance?
Yes, I do.
Let me
So
see.
the Broncos absolutely need this win on Sunday. I don't care if the Chiefs are resting their starters or not. I think this has to be the week to do it and make a statement. Joe Burrow's been red hot, but the Denver defense is going to have its hands full with Higgins, with Chase. However, the Bengals defense is criminally bad, just god-awful. So the Broncos offense should be able to keep pace. Obviously, Bo Nix, the rookie quarterback, still a lot to prove, but he has played very well this season. He's exceeded my expectations, especially with the weapons that we have. I think the Denver defense does get a few key takeaways and to seal the game and turn the tide in their favor. I have the Broncos winning in a close one, 24-20.
Oh, nice. I have like a bit of a surprise. Mine was like the biggest win. I just feel like they're kind of pissed off from last game, the Broncos. I feel like the Riley Moss coming back. Hopefully we lean into the running game a little more. The one big X factor for the other team would be the other Chase on their team is Chase Brown. You got to keep him from hurting us when we feel like we lock some people down and he gets that underneath pass, whatever, and starts converting first downs. I know he's been playing pretty well. He's got a twin brother too, right?
I believe so. That sounds right. He's just
plays
like me for real.
Yeah.
Let me look that up real quick.
But yeah, he's been playing really well this year. He started off a little slow, but he's definitely gotten better as the season has gone on. He's an exciting player to watch. But I think our run defense will be all right. Our linebackers just got to stay disciplined. And then the coverage. We just can't we can't have them getting a ton of yak yards. So is he a twin?
Yes, I looked up. So his brother Sidney Brown, he's a DB. I believe he plays for or last played for the Eagles.
Okay. Nice. And then like I was talking about earlier, we had some comments from questions and comments from YouTube from the last show. There really wasn't any comments. There was a couple of like statements, I guess you would say. Like it says, Broncos guy, he says he was pretty down about the last loss. He says, we aren't making it. Peyton and Joseph need to be fired for their incompetence. Maybe a little bit of an emotional response after the loss. I get the frustration because there was definitely stuff that was 100% their fault on why we lost the game. But yeah, it's you can't. I mean, Peyton 100%. You can't fire him. Vance Joseph, it's going to be pretty hard. I know, and he's Peyton's guy. Like I don't know, Peyton loves him, so he would have to do some monumental, idiotic play that cost him the game and the Chiefs.
Yeah, the VJ thing I get. It's kind of like I mentioned earlier. It's shades of last year where it's your defense is good because they're getting these turnovers, not necessarily because they're that amazing of a defense. And once you don't get those turnovers, that's when things go down the toilet. Mm-hmm. And as for Sean Payton, I mean, and not even just for Sean Payton in general, for head coaches, I mean, besides like Matt Eberflus in Chicago, I think he was definitely not a good pairing to have there with Caleb Williams. But back to the Broncos, if you don't fully see the vision out, how are we ever going to build anything? This was supposed to be a rebuilding year, guys. I mean,
True.
the Broncos exceeded expectations, and now we keep moving the goalposts and be like, okay, now they have to win a wild card game. Next is going to be like, okay, now we have to win the freaking Super Bowl. It's like, guys, take a step back. I know we're fans, right? But we got to look at this objectively. This season's already been a success, and now we want more, and that's great. But firing your coach only 2 years in when you have minimal offensive talent, a rookie quarterback, and a defense that was mostly good, now kind of on the downtrend. Like, we're still building here, guys. If you take out the coach halfway through the rebuild, okay, now Bo Nix in his second season has to learn an entirely new offense with someone who knows if the next guy they bring in is even going to be good.
What if it's a Shermer that's like, play my system? I'm not going to cater to you at all. So no run for Bo Nix.
Exactly. Practicing incompletions. So, you got to see the vision out. Sean Payton at minimum has 2 more years. That that obviously, like you mentioned, it's off the cuff reactionary stuff post game. I get it. I was frustrated too, but I do expect better of Sean Payton, like I ranted about earlier.
Yeah, it's I get their side too, because there's always that one. The coach just comes out of nowhere or whatever, a new hire that you never even heard of, and they get their team to the playoffs. And then the next year, people are calling for his job too, Mr. D'Amico Ryans. He was coach of the year last year, and I know people are bad now because they're not where they thought they were going to be, and maybe that's because they were rebuilding their first year and just happened to get hot at the right time. And maybe this is the real team. It still needs a lot to grow. So I don't know. Be patient. Be patient with the Broncos. Patience is what you need to be, because I don't know, the season. You can't. With sports, it's just, I don't know, frustrate. It can it would roll over into your own life, whatever, and frustrations and all this different stuff. And I don't know. You got to be positive. Stay positive. Hang in there, buddy. And Jason Bonney says Denver Broncos for life. Merry Christmas, Bronco countries. All I want for Christmas is a playoff berth. I'm right there with you, Jason. And then some of them were kind of getting mad at us for being a little negative. Somebody got on Eric about being negative on Sean Payton. But no, we have high expectations for him. He's the coach that warrants those expectations. Like, you got Andy Reid that comes in, whatever. You're gonna assume he's gonna get your team on track quicker, sooner rather than later, and he's not gonna make any bonehead decisions on them in the time being, like a Nathaniel Hackett or Josh McDaniels might make. So yeah, I don't know. You have to have high expectations for those guys. Otherwise, I think those guys won't slip regardless because of their own pride, whatever. But I have high expectations for those guys, and I understand why Eric was so hard on him.
Well, yeah, that's exactly why I went on him earlier. Like I mentioned, dude, you're a veteran coach, you're a Super Bowl winning coach, and you don't let people forget that. And talking about before the draft, we're the best at evaluating quarterbacks, and we're going to pick the best guy out of anyone. And now you're trying to validate that thought by having him, again, throw 40 times in a game where you're up 11 and you decide not to run the ball because you want to feel your ego or something. Obviously, outside perspective, I don't know the man himself, personally, but this is what he is handing to us. This is what we can see, and we can see the play calling, game flow, and how he refuses to change or he goes away from things, whether it's, the defense was showing this, and it's like, okay, adjust. You're this offensive guru, right? Like, we expect more from you. And this is not me saying he's trash. He's a good coach. He just is stubborn. He's got an ego about him, and that's things. in his advanced age, we'll call it, he has to work around. That's just kind of the bottom line there.
I 100% agree. Mr. Eric Flynn came back in and said, "What do you guys think would be the right ratio to win pass plays to run plays?" So yeah, the ratio to pass plays to run plays. I mean, generally you want to do 50-50. Actually, you want to do like maybe a little more run because hopefully you have to lead it late in the game, and you're kind of just like running down the clock. With our run game, I feel like it's not talented enough to maybe 50-50, but just enough to keep the defense honest, is what I would say. So 40%, even if you're not having the greatest game on the ground.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there in terms of I think the passing game is kind of it's inevitable. It's what it's not only where the league is, obviously, but that's what Sean Payton likes to do. He's at his best when it's a heavy passing offense. So ideally, we get like a 60-40 with 60 being the passing and 40 being the running, because right now it's about 90-10. Or at least that's what it feels like. I'm sure some nerd's going to give me the metrics on that, the actual ones, but you guys know what I mean. So yeah, we got to get that ratio right. I'm a nerd too, man. There's times where you see all these advanced analytics and stuff, and I love all that. That's great, but sometimes you just got to look at what you're seeing. I don't need numbers there. Like what are we seeing on the field?
Okay, yeah. Well, and again, thank you again, Eric, for the stars. These were on Facebook. We really appreciate that. Thank you. And this is the second time you came in, I think. Thank you so much. Michael Ronquillo comes back in as well. Sean Payton handpicked Bo Nix and can't look back now. Yeah, I think that's one good thing about Payton. He's not looking back. It's full straightforward. He's working on whatever is going on right now and then in the future with Bo Nix. He's all in on Bo Nix. He loves Bo Nix, even if he has a little Ferris Bueller in him, which I feel like is a little positive, if anything. Because then you're able to work off scripts, and it always worked out for Ferris Bueller. So definitely. You just don't want a little Cameron in him. I think that's the other guy, Cameron, right?
I think, yeah.
The nervous guy. But yeah, I see him sticking with him, and he's never wavered from him once, and I don't think he'll waver from him, and Bo will give him a reason to.
And that's the other way you could look at it, right? When it comes to him trusting Bo in these big spots, or giving him the ball 40 times a game to throw. He wants to prove that is his guy, and that he's going to work in this offense. And he has put a lot on his plate. I mean, the guy's not Drew Brees yet. These long play calls or taking shots when maybe they shouldn't. It's like, hey man, give him a little time to breathe. It's fine. Let the run game do its thing. Take a little pressure off him. He is still a rookie after all, and despite all those starts in college, the NFL is a different beast. But obviously, that experience has translated decently well.
For sure. Looks like we got the last couple minutes of the show. I was just gonna do fun league stuff around the league. These will be like kind of rapid fire. Who is your MVP? Everybody in the chat and you as well, Dylan.
My MVP for the Broncos or in general?
In general.
In general. Well, for me, it's Lamar Jackson. Absolutely love the guy. Slightly biased. My brother is a Ravens fan, but
okay.
But even if without that, regardless of that, Lamar is just electric. Obviously, the stats are there, but not just the stats. You see the eye-popping plays and amazing scrambles and whatnot. Obviously, Josh Allen is amazing as well, but for my money, it's Lamar Jackson for the second year in a row.
Yeah, I definitely have Lamar Jackson as well. The numbers are pretty much the same as Josh Allen, a little bit better. And yeah, it's like maybe it's because Josh Allen isn't running as much as he was before. But yeah, Lamar Jackson is just so fun to watch. It's insane that he failed to pick 32. And we were talking, some of my friends were talking about like, what if he did end up as a receiver? Like, wonder how he would have panned out. It looks like Ralph is late to the party. Sorry. You can always rewind it and watch later. But thank you for joining us. Better late than never, I guess. Thank you, Ralph. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Ralph. It's never late. Like you just mentioned, you can watch the show back, leave a comment down below, and we'll definitely read those after the show.
Yeah, definitely. What was the last thing? Browns restructured Deshaun Watson's contract. I don't know. They cut a ton of off there. Made it very cap friendly to where I think he's guaranteed to be there for the next 2 years at least, which kind of sucks for the Browns fans. The only worse contract than Russell Wilson's, which I still don't blame George Payton on Russell Wilson because we all thought he was going to be good. It was weird that he just fell off like that. College football is going on right now. I had a 6 overtime game. That was a pretty crazy game. And then the last thing today would be this happened earlier in the season on a podcast called Pardon My Take. They talked about Derrick Henry, and they said that the idea that was floating around that he may be the last running back to make the Hall of Fame, which is crazy to think about. But when you really do think about it, their careers, running backs are usually about 5 to 7 years. You don't really get the 10-year kind of guys like Derrick Henry is going to be, or any of the longevity guys. Like I don't know. Why can't I think of it? Like Emmitt Smith or Barry Sanders. I think he had 10 seasons. Or any of those guys. So, will they have the numbers to get in? That's insane. Like they might not have the numbers. They might have to have the only guys that can get in. Maybe Christian McCaffrey if he can somehow stay healthy.
I think so. Yeah. Saquon,
Jonathan Taylor.
Could be.
But yeah, they got to stay healthy and they got to eat some money too. If they want to stay on a good team, if they're going to go chasing for the money, they're not going to be able to get those numbers. So
probably not.
It's insane. All right. So I think that's all for us today. Dylan, did you want to take us out for today?
Yeah, I believe, I don't know if you grabbed this one yet, but we have our last stars of the night, Super Chat Superstar, Michael Ronquillo. He says, great show tonight, Kenneth and Dylan on Dove Valley Deep Divers. Go, Bo Broncos. Thank you, Michael. Like I said at the top of the show, he always starts us off great, and he closes us out as well. So always good to see your name pop up in the chat, Michael. And yeah, before we go, we're just going to run through our orders of business here. This has been Dove Valley Deep Divers. Thank you for joining us as always, folks. We appreciate it. And just a couple things before you go, you can follow Mile High Huddle on X, formerly known as Twitter, to get all your content, your articles, opinion pieces, and what have you. Same with Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle, and on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. You can get your news everywhere, man. We are all over social media. Make sure to go to mhhmerch.com, get some new shirts so you can represent your favorite podcast. They got a couple good DVD shirts and hats in there, so make sure to check those out. Leave us some positive reviews on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, 5-star review for a chance for swag at the end of each month. Obviously, Spotify is actually very nice because all you have to do is give a 5-star. I don't believe you even have to leave a comment. So that's an easy thing you can do there. But if you can't do any of that, of course, do what the ticker says at the bottom there. Subscribe, like, and share. Those are the easiest things you can do, and they help us out greatly. Like I always say in the chat, a little bit goes a long way, and that's certainly the case here. And want to show a little extra love to those who showed us some extra love tonight. Obviously, we have the great Michael Ronquillo coming in 1, 2, 3, 4 times tonight.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely outstanding, Michael. We love you for that, man. Phil McLaughlin as well. He came in 2 different times. That's awesome, my man. Always good to see you as well. Max Rue, who I haven't not familiar with, so thank you for popping in. Eric Flynn, as always. We're starting to get him to come out of his shell. He's getting us some questions. He came in twice here tonight. And Ralph Race Gritty, thank you so much. Even though you were late to the party, you still showed up and gave us a little extra love. So we greatly appreciate that, my man. And hope to see you in the chat more often.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for joining us today, guys. And like I said, we were talking about earlier. If you have any comments, you can leave them in the YouTube chat later. We like to respond to those. We read all those comments, and we understand that some of you guys can't watch us live, so that's a good way for us to be able to interact with you guys, even though you don't watch us live. But yeah, thank you for coming in today. You all have a wonderful day, and hope you had a great Christmas and a happy New Year's in your future. And I'll see you next year.
Yep. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.